Hello and good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the KBAC 2025 Candidate Forum. I'm Charles Karsten, Operations Manager for KBAC, Kent Black Action Commission, and the moderator for this forum. Today we will be hearing from candidates vying for your vote in the upcoming general election on November 4th, 2025. Please understand this is a forum, not a debate. I will ask 2 questions of each candidate with no rebuttal between candidates. There are no gotcha questions. Each candidate will start with a 2-minute opening statement, followed by the questions with 2 minutes to answer. Then each candidate will have a 90-second closing statement after that final question for the panel. Thank you for joining us, and we will continue these efforts for Candidates Forum in the future.
I've been working hard in the city of Burien to tackle our homelessness crisis, to get folks off the street and into treatment and into housing and shelter, as well as focusing on reducing crime by investing in the co-response model that sends out mental health professionals along with police officers. So I'm focused on wanting to bring those solutions that work to the state level, because right now, with cuts and increases in taxes, we're seeing communities that are becoming less affordable and less safe. So that's why I'm running for the state legislature, and thank you so much to KBAC for having this forum.
Thank you. Senator, your opening statement, please.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for being here on a Saturday night. It's very impressive. Thank you to KBAC for this event. You know, it's an honor to serve in Olympia, and like all things in life, it takes a team. And my marching orders come from you. I could tell you almost every bill I've introduced has really come from the community, has been by the community and for the community. When I think about Kent, I think about when I started working on foreclosure prevention, and there were people on every block in Kent losing their homes. And I worked with Pamela, a homeowner, and we did the Housing Foreclosure Fairness Act. And that has free counseling, that has mediation, and has helped 40,000 people in our state keep their homes, which is one of the most important investments people ever make, is in their home. I also think about meeting with Ginger from Open Doors and 30 families. We spent the Saturday together hearing stories about how families didn't feel welcome in the school, or their kids were the interpreter, or they weren't getting the services they need, and working on the language access bill. So again, I think it takes a team. I'm here to listen, I'm here to learn. I think there's a lot of public safety issues. I'm really proud to have worked on 988. We were the first state to pass comprehensive 988, which is an alternative to the police to get people the help they need and deserve. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Edwin Obras. Thank you, Charles and Gwen and KBAC, for this opportunity. Civic engagement is necessary and important as we go through some rough times. Our citizens, our community members need to continue to be engaged, so thank you. I am your state representative, was appointed last December and served in the state legislature. The last 25 years, I've worked on issues and solutions to really help families, working folks, anything from our homelessness issue to community safety. I've been there. I wanted to run and be appointed and run this year in the state legislature because I want to continue working on solutions for folks in our community. I bought my house in SeaTac 22 years ago. 22 years ago, SeaTac called me in because it was a wonderful place that I wanted to be. It was affordable, and I have the opportunity now to ensure that members of our community have that same opportunity. I worked on legislation this past session to improve the lives of people in Kent. The streamlined sales tax needs to be reformed, and we need to bring back and redirect sales taxes to the city of Kent to ensure that your services, infrastructure, education is improved. I was also a co-sponsor of Joint Memorial Bill 4000, which renames parts of State Route 900 to Martin Luther King Jr. Way. Thank you to Gwen and Charles for your advocacy efforts there. Let's get it over the finish line in the next legislative session. Thank you.
Okay, we'll begin with the questions now. First question goes to Mayor Schilling. Transportation is critical for both urban and rural communities. How would you advocate for improvements to roads, bridges, and transit systems across the state?
The 33rd LD, which is made up of Burien, Normandy Park, Des Moines, SeaTac, and Kent, relies significantly on light rail, buses, freeways, and streets of all kinds. And I think the transportation infrastructure for the 33rd is vital not just for our local economy, but for residents across these suburbs to get to where they need to go to work, to school, for fun. And right now, as we've all seen, there are potholes that need to be filled, there's light rail that needs to be fixed and built, and we need to hold that spending accountable, because we've seen year in, year out, year in and year out, that without accountability, light rail is delayed, highway infrastructure and road construction is delayed, but really it's about making sure that we have the dedication and the focus to get folks on the ground with jobs that rebuild and repair our vital local infrastructure, so that we can have communities where people aren't getting into car accidents over potholes, or they can drive to light rail that's 15 minutes away, or take the bus to light rail that's 15 minutes away to get into work, to go to a Mariners game, to go to school. So we are an interesting and diverse district as well, because we are suburban, ex-urban, a little bit of rural, and that mix is important to have somebody who understands how to direct infrastructure funding and work together with local communities and local cities and the county to come up with solutions that meet the needs of everyone within the district. And right now, I think we're all frustrated with accountability around light rail, with delayed construction, and we need to be focused on making that happen.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is for Senator Orwall. Mental health and behavioral health needs are growing statewide. What investments or legislation would you prioritize to expand access to care?
Thank you for that question. I do think it's one of the most pressing things we're working on in Olympia is behavioral health. And the two pieces I would point out, the first is we talked a little bit about 988, which is a place to call, someone to respond, and a place to go. When we did the 988 call centers, the first thing we funded was the Native and Strong line. This is the only Native American line in the country. It's answered by Indigenous people. We think, again, as we create this new system that's actually trauma-informed and supportive, that we need to build it with community. The other thing is we're building the rapid response teams. These are clinical teams that are non-law enforcement that will be starting in different parts of our state. That's usually mental health, maybe EMS, fire. And again, we need to have a rapid response, and we need to make sure it's trauma-informed. And now we're starting to open up the facilities so there's a place to go. The other thing I'm really worried about is our schools. And so I do have a bill to increase mental health in our schools. We're seeing high rates of absenteeism. We're thinking families are under a tremendous amount of stress. So we're having partnerships between our school districts and our community-based organizations to really see what we can do to provide more supports to students. And again, we want to make sure our clinicians are being trained with the right skill set so that they really can help be a healing and supportive in these students' lives. And I met with students from Kent School District, and they said, can you have more counselors in the school, and can they reflect the diversity of the student body? And they also said, can you help train adults to be comfortable to talk about mental health and suicide prevention? So again, we're trying to follow up and really honor the voices of the students.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for Representative Obras. Education funding is always a major issue. How will you ensure Washington schools are fully funded and equitable across districts?
Thank you, Charles, for that question. Education is how I and my family got out of the economic rut that my family was in. I am the first person in my family to graduate from college. My brothers and sisters, although they went to college, they needed to continue to work to support themselves. And it's really important that we in the legislature ensure that education is funded regardless of it's our mandate to fully fund education. One of the things that I would like to see is how we fund our schools, our infrastructure. It is based on how the property value of of where our communities are. When we have communities of color, low-income communities, it becomes and continues to stay in a cycle of poverty where education is not prioritized by the system. And the system has really dealt our kids, particularly our kids of color, the debt that they shouldn't be playing. And so I want to continue the work in Olympia to ensure that we have some reforms around how we fund education, not just through property taxes, which is inequitable, but also continue to make sure that our teachers are paid well, our administrators, administrative staff who are very much underpaid receive the same amount of funding and pay that their counterparts as teachers do. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the second question, and it applies to all three candidates. If elected, what is the top issue you will prioritize in your next legislative session, or first for you, and how should voters measure your effectiveness?
I think the most frustrating thing for me about the state legislature in our state is that we're focused on trying to figure out how to fix these funding problems, but we never talk about outcomes. And we never talk about, are things getting better? And are we a state that is leading the way in certain things like education and building light rail, getting folks off the street and getting into treatment, getting more workforce development opportunities? We never talk about outcomes. We talk about funding. We need more money, more money, more money, more money. If we had outcomes associated with that money and accountability to those outcomes, we would be a state that's not 25th in the nation in education, that doesn't not have light rail, that continues to get kids out of poverty and into workforce development opportunities. But we're so focused on where the money's coming from and where the money's going that we no longer talk about outcomes. And as your state representative, I would be bullseye focused on ensuring that if we say we're going to solve a problem, that problem's going to be solved. We need to build 1 million more houses in 10 years, and we're nowhere near getting there. We need to fix so many of our infrastructure problems around the pipeline for education, fixing light rail, building out state-run capacity for treatment and hospitalization, but we can't because we're raising taxes to historic levels and making funding cuts to historic levels. I don't know any other state that's doing historic tax increases and cuts to the social safety net. So as your state representative, I would be focused on ensuring that if I say we're going to build the best schools, we're going to get people off the street and into treatment, that you will see that that's going to happen based on accountability around outcomes, not a number.
Thank you. Same question.
Well, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm proud of our state because these are troubled times, and it's probably more important than ever, the work we do at the state level. For me, it's the health and safety of our community is my top priority. I toured the Tacoma Ice facility 2 weeks ago, and it's soul crushing. I'm not going to lie. You know, we only saw certain areas, but there are people who are in absolute isolation with major mental health. There are people that have no access to interpreters or attorneys, and You know, it's just our community's in fear. And I talk to so many families, they're afraid to have their kids play outside. You know, as a state, we need to step in. We need to give more tools to Department of Health. We need to make sure the health and safety of people. We need the protocols to make sure that, you know, again, a bill was passed on our National Guard to protect our own residents. And again, making sure there's mental health supports and counseling and supports for families that are struggling. Again, you know, we just need to come together as a state and just really support our communities during this very difficult time.
Thank you.
When I'm out canvassing my neighborhood, the district, affordability is a big concern for folks right now. Kitchen table issues are the number one things that I'm hearing. Cost of living, ability to maintain a business. Those are the things that I'm hearing, and it affects everything that we do, from the health of our seniors, our children, to our education. Our kids cannot go to school with an empty stomach and be able to learn. I worked on the rent stabilization bill, a very progressive bill that puts caps on increases to rent, not more than 10% a year. I want to ensure that people of color, marginalized communities who are working 1, 2, sometimes 3 jobs have the ability to get out of that economic rut and into a stabilized situation. Many of the folks that I doorbell, neighborhoods and apartment buildings, are frustrated. They are frustrated because they continue to stay in the cycle of poverty and close to homelessness. I've worked on solutions the last 25 years. I've helped build affordable housing. I've organized home care workers. And I want to continue to work on progressive issues. Let's take a look at progressive taxes, a tax wealth that needs to be implemented in some form or fashion, because we are the 49th most regressive. We have the 49th most regressive tax system in the country. That means you and I are shouldering the burden of paying for vital services disproportionately. So I would like to reform that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now each candidate would have a closing statement of 90 seconds. And we'll begin with Mr. That's what I said, 90 seconds.
90 seconds?
90 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much to KBAC for putting this on. I'm Kevin Schilling. I'm the current mayor of Burien, running for the State House of Representatives, because right now we do live in a state that isn't affordable and has laws being passed that are making communities less safe. This last legislature passed and increased the gas tax to the highest gas tax in the country. It passed an increase to the sales tax. It passed an increase to the business and occupation tax for businesses. So when we're talking about affordability, and trust me, I've knocked on over 12,000 doors for this campaign. I talk to people too about affordability. The gas tax is not helping keep communities affordable, and it's not helping start businesses to have an increase of sales and B&O tax. And certainly, cuts to Medicaid that this legislature just instituted is not helping working people either. And so I'm running because we need a state that is focused on making sure that we're prioritizing working people and keeping communities safe and more affordable for people who are struggling. And in this district, the 33rd legislative district, we are a proud district of working people. We are a proud district of people that get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and come home at 5 p.m. I like to call myself lunch pail Democrat, because I do believe that we need to focus on partnerships around the public sector and the private sector to grow our economy, to grow wages, to build more housing, and to focus on creating a Washington where everybody can thrive, everybody can feel like there's more opportunity, and we can put more money into people's pockets. So, Kevin Schilling, thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator?
Well, you know, the reason I ran was to make sure every student had a pathway to be successful. And I know growing up, my kids heard that from their great-grandmother, their Siti, who came from Beirut. And beautiful lady, she raised her 4 sons on Seattle Street in Kent. And you know, that's that opportunity, right? That to be successful, there's great careers. Some involve college, some do not. My son's a commercial electrician. But again, we need to have hope. We need to support students. We need to support families during these tough times. You know, I'm really proud to, you know, always have an open door and to take my marching orders from you. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I know working together, we can move very powerful legislation. We'll have a lot of bills this year on housing, on services. We just got the funding for the multi-cultural village right by Highline College. That'll be 230 units, deeply affordable, and it will have a set aside for families with children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as therapeutic health care and daycare. So I know when we come together, we can create things that are inclusive and supportive that our families need. So again, looking forward to teaming up with you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for the opportunity. This is a privilege and honor to be here. This is, as a candidate, I applaud everyone that runs. This is not easy. It's hard work, and we're here to represent you. I want to continue the work in the next session, the work of the people. There's a lot of hurt and anger in our communities right now. We have overreach from the federal government, bringing mass police to come down and take people off the streets without due process. Cuts to Medicaid are coming. SNAP benefits for folks who are the most vulnerable will be taken away. I want to continue to work in the legislature to ensure that those cuts are covered. It'll be a Band-Aid approach because we continue to be hurt by tariffs. We continue to be hurt by the national economic growth. And I want to ensure that our residents of the 33rd are protected.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is all for this panel.
Yes, let's give them a round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much.